Think you can recognize the most legendary rock gods who ruled the 80s? The 1980s were the golden age of rock and metal, producing some of the most iconic frontmen and legendary performers to ever command a stage. You'll see a recent photo of these rock legends and get 5 seconds to guess who it is. Then we reveal them in their prime from their most unforgettable music video moments. Keep score as you go and share your results in the comments. Let's get started. That golden voice belongs to Steve Perry, Journey's legendary frontman, whose departure from the band was so devastating that fans still petition for reunion tours decades later. He can still hit every note in Don't Stop Believing without studio assistance, and his vocal warm-ups included singing scales while jogging 5 miles daily to maintain his legendary range. He's 76 in 2025. Here's the metal master himself, James Hetfield of Metallica, whose downstroke guitar technique was so punishing that he destroyed 12 custom guitars during the recording of Master of Puppets alone. His voice deepened naturally from screaming lyrics, creating that signature growl that defined thrash metal for generations. In 2025, he's 62. That's the Sheffield screamer Joe Elliot of Def Leppard, whose voice survived vocal cord surgery to become even more powerful than before, and who sang most of Hysteria while recovering from the operation using techniques learned from opera singers. He's memorized every harmony part ever recorded by the band and can perform any song a cappella. In 2025, he's 66. That's the Sunset Strip legend himself, tamed down a faster pussycat, whose leather pants were so tight that roadies needed baby powder and crowbars to get him dressed for shows. He once dated 3 different penthouse pets simultaneously and kept their photos taped inside his guitar case for inspiration during solos. In 2025, he's 63. You're witnessing pure grit. That's Tom Kefir of Cinderella, whose raspy voice was so distinctive that vocal coaches still study his technique to understand how he maintained that gravelly tone without destroying his throat. He played every guitar solo on Night songs in a single take while recovering from throat surgery. He's 68 in 2025. Behold the metal goddess Janet Gardner of Vixen, who proved women could shred just as hard as their male counterparts while maintaining perfect hair and makeup throughout 3-hour concerts. She performed her own guitar solos in 6-inch stilettos and never missed a note, even when pyrotechnics singed her stage outfit. In 2025, she's 63. You're looking at the melodic metal king Dungan, whose voice could soar from whispered ballads to arena-shaking screams within the same song. He and guitarist George Lynch feuded so intensely that they recorded their parts in separate studios. Yet their musical chemistry remained undeniable throughout their volatile partnership. He's 72 in 2025. That's the glam rock prince Michael Monroe of Hanoi Rocks, whose androgynous beauty and saxophone skills influenced everyone from Guns N' Roses to the New York Dolls revival. He performed backflips off drum risers while playing harmonica and never landed incorrectly, claiming his ballet training saved his career. In 2025, he's 62. Witness rock royalty. That's Bon Jovi, whose charity work has fed more people than most government programs while maintaining a rock career spanning 5 decades. His hair required an entire styling team during the 80s, and he's the only rock star to successfully transition from MTV heartthrob to respected philanthropist. He's 63 in 2025. You're seeing the voice of rebellion itself, Sebastian Bach of Skid Row, whose operatic range could shatter windows and whose stage presence made grown men weep. He was kicked out of more hotels than any other rock star and once got arrested for throwing a bottle at a fan who threw one first, claiming self-defense. In 2025, he's 57. That's the air raid siren himself, Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden, who's also a licensed commercial airline pilot and has flown the band's custom Boeing 747 Ed Force One to concerts across 6 continents. His fencing skills are Olympic level, and he once challenged a fan to a sword fight during a meet and greet. He's 66 in 2025. Here's the thunder from down under. Brian Johnson of AC/DC, whose signature cap collection includes over 200 different designs, each worn for specific songs to maintain his superstitious performance rituals. His voice was nearly destroyed by hearing loss until revolutionary technology saved his career in his legendary rasp. He's 78 in 2025. Behold the demon himself, Gene Simmons of Kiss, whose tongue is insured for $1 million and whose blood-spitting technique required him to consume beet juice and corn syrup before every show. He's turned Kiss into a billion-dollar merchandising empire with over 4,000 licensed products, making him rock's most successful businessman. He's 76 in 2025. You're witnessing the wild child himself, Vince Neil of Motley Crue, whose partying was so legendary that the band's insurance company required a Vince clause in their policies. He could drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels and still hit every high note in Home Sweet Home, though his liver probably wishes he hadn't proven that so many times. He's 64 in 2025. That's the thrash metal prophet Tom Araya of Slayer, whose bass playing while screaming defied human physiology, and whose headbanging was so violent that he required neck surgery twice. He's a devout Catholic who sees no contradiction between his faith and singing about the apocalypse, claiming it's all biblical anyway. In 2025, he's 64. Here's the Sunset Strip survivor Phil Lewis of LA Guns, whose British accent never faded despite decades in Hollywood, and whose stage banter was as legendary as his vocals. He once performed an entire concert with a broken leg, claiming the pain improved his vocal delivery because suffering makes the voice more authentic. He's 65 in 2025. You're looking at the Texas tornado Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, whose beard is so iconic that Gillette once offered him $1 million to shave it off for a commercial. He owns over 400 guitars and claims each one has a different personality, often talking to them before recording his sessions like old friends. In 2025, he's 75. That's the Twisted Sister himself, Dee Snider, whose falsetto could reach notes that made dogs howl 3 blocks away, and whose stage makeup required 2 hours of daily application by professional artists. He testified before Congress about music censorship while wearing full drag makeup, making him rock's most unlikely political activist. He's 70 in 2025. The final rock god, That's the voice of Whitesnake himself, David Coverdale, whose hair was so voluminous it required its own wind machine and whose romantic ballads made him the thinking woman's rock star. He dated Tawny Kitaen during the peak of MTV's power, making their music videos the most paused moments in cable television history. In 2025, he's 74. That's the guitar god himself, Zack Wild, whose pinch harmonics were so powerful. They could be heard 3 blocks away from venues and whose beard rivals ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons for sheer magnificence. He drank so much beer during recording sessions that Black Label Society's studio bills included more alcohol than equipment rental, yet he never missed a single guitar cue. He's 58 in 2025. You're witnessing pure vocal thunder. That's Jeff Tate of Queensryche, whose operatic range spanned 4 octaves and whose concept albums predicted the future with eerie accuracy. He performed the entire Operation Mindcrime album in character for 2 hours straight, never breaking persona even during costume changes that happened behind a translucent screen. In 2025, he's 66. Behold the metal machine himself, Rob Halford of Judas Priest, who invented the leather and studs look that every metal band copied and whose motorcycle entrances became the most anticipated moments in concert history. His coming out in 1998 made him metal's first openly gay icon, proving that authenticity trumps image in true rock and roll. He's 75 in 2025. Here's the rhythm master Lars Ulrich of Metallica, whose drumming style was so distinctive that air drummers worldwide still copy his snare technique from the Enter Sandman video. He owns one of the world's largest collections of Jean-Michel Basquiat paintings, proving that thrash metal and fine art make perfect bedfellows when you have exquisite taste. He's 61 in 2025. So how many of these 80s rock gods did you recognize? Drop your score in the comments. Bonus points if you can name the specific albums or music videos we pulled these classic shots from. These men didn't just define a decade, they created the template for rock stardom that every generation since has tried to emulate. Their voices, their attitude, and their pure rock and roll spirit prove that the 80s were truly the golden age of heavy music. If you enjoyed this journey through rock's most legendary decade, smash that like button, subscribe for more nostalgic content. See you next time.